What if the quarter you've ignored for decades carries a detail so rare, so unusual, that collectors have paid extraordinary sums just to own one example? Tonight, we're talking about the 1988 Washington quarter, often associated with confusion around mint marks, errors, and misunderstood rarity. And more importantly, we're talking about awareness, the kind of awareness that separates people who overlook value from those who recognize opportunity. Because history has proven one thing again and again. Life-changing discoveries are rarely announced. They're found by people who simply take a closer look at so before you dismiss this coin. Before you assume you already know its story, ask yourself one honest question. What if I already own this coin? The Washington quarter is one of the most familiar coins in American history. Introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, it became a permanent part of U.S. coinage and a daily companion in American life by 1988. The quarter was firmly in the modern era. Millions were struck. Most were spent immediately, and most, even today, are worth exactly 25 cents. That's the truth, and it matters. Now, here's where confusion often begins. In 1988, quarters were produced at two primary mints. Philadelphia, which traditionally used no mint mark, and Denver, which used a D mint marked SO. When people say 1988 D quarter with no mint mark, they're usually describing a misunderstanding, or they are pointing towards something far more unusual, a minting anomaly. Under normal circumstances, a 1988 P quarter without a mint mark is common, that a 1988 D quarter with a clear D is also common. But a coin that does not match what it should be, that's where collectors lean forward. This is where errors enter the story. Over the decades, a very small number of 1,988 quarters have surfaced with dramatic and verifiable minting errors. Not scratches. Not damage from circulation, but genuine mistakes made during the minting process. A quarter struck on the wrong metal planchet, creating abnormal weight and color, a coin with a missing or malformed mint mark caused by die issues, not where dot or extremely rare double die features, where design elements show true mechanical doubling. These are not everyday finds. They are statistical outliers, and when such coins appear, authenticated and graded, collectors notice. Major auctions, error coins that combine the right date, the right condition, and the right mistake have achieved astonishing prices. Not because every 1988 quarter is rare, but because a tiny fraction defy expectation. This is why numbers circulate online that sound unbelievable. Not because the coin itself is magical, but because rarity plus demand plus verification can push values into territory most people never associate with pocket change. Responsible collectors understand this distinction. And so should you. The opportunity now, let's bring this back to you. If you have quarters from the late 1980s, especially ones that have been sitting untouched for years, this is the moment to slow down and examine them properly. Take one out. Hold it under good light. Use a magnifier. Look at the date. Look closely at the mint mark area. Check the color and weight. Does anything look unusual? Not damaged, but genuinely different. If something catches your eye, don't jump to conclusions, and don't rush to sell. The smartest move is education. Professional coin grading services exist for a reason. They authenticate. They verify. They protect both collectors and sellers from costly mistakes. A certified coin tells the market one thing clearly. This is real. And even if your coin turns out to be common, you've gained something just as valuable: awareness. Awareness changes habits. Habits shape outcomes. People who build wealth over time rarely do it through luck alone. They do it by paying attention, learning, recognizing that value often hides in plain sight. Coin collecting, at its core, is not about fantasies of instant riches. It's about understanding history, scarcity, and human demand, the same forces that drive every financial market. So here's the invitation. Tonight, after this video ends, take 5 minutes. Open that jar, check that drawer. Revisit the coins you've ignored for years. Not because every quarter is valuable, but because some stories only reveal themselves to those who look twice. And if you want more stories like this, grounded, responsible, and rooted in real numismatic insight, make sure you stay connected. Subscribe. Share this with someone who still believes loose change doesn't matter. And remember, financial awareness doesn't begin with a windfall. It begins with curiosity. Sometimes the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is simply knowing what you're holding. What if the spare change sitting in your home right now The loose quarters in a jar, a drawer, or your car's cup holder held a story worth far more than 25 cents. Pause for a moment. Imagine discovering that an ordinary-looking Washington quarter from the 1990s, a coin most people never look at twice, could, under very specific circumstances, be connected to life-changing money. Not because everyone is valuable. Not because of hype. But because rare coins have a way of hiding in plain sight. Today, we're talking about the 1994 Washington quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, often casually called no mint mark by collectors when the mark is faint or worn, and why a tiny number of quarters from this era have captured serious attention from collectors, researchers, and auction houses. If you've ever handled a quarter from the 1990s, this story matters to you. So take a breath and ask yourself one simple question. What if I already own the right coin? Short pause for visuals. Of loose change, slow zoom on a quarter. To understand why the 1994 Philadelphia Washington quarter matters, we need to start with context. By 1994, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for more than 60 years. It was a workhorse of American commerce, practical, familiar, and widely overlooked. That year, millions of quarters were struck at the Philadelphia Mint bearing a P mint mark. Over time, wear and circulation have caused many of those mint marks to become faint or nearly invisible, which is why people often describe them as having no mint mark. But here's the key truth every serious numismatist understands. Value is never about age alone. It's about rarity, condition, and anomalies. Most 1994 quarters are worth face value. Some are worth a few dollars in high condition. And a very small number, a microscopic fraction, stand apart. These standout coins are not valuable because they are common. They are valuable because something went wrong, or unusually right, during the minting process. Let's talk about what collectors actually look for. First, mint errors. These include off-center strikes, double strikes, misaligned dies, or improperly prepared planchets. In rare cases, dramatic errors escape quality control and enter circulation. Second, die varieties. Sometimes the dies used to strike coins develop cracks, doubling, or unusual textures. These features can be subtle, invisible to the untrained eye, yet unmistakable once identified. Third, exceptional condition. A coin graded at the very top of the scale, especially one with strong luster, sharp details, and original surfaces, can multiply in value compared to an average example. Now let's address the number you may have heard: extremely high six-figure valuations. Coins that approach those levels are not everyday finds. They are typically, when such a coin appears at auction, the price is not decided by hype, it is decided by demand meeting documented rarity. Major auction houses have shown us this again and again. When a coin checks all the right boxes, collectors step forward, not with emotion, with conviction. Now here's the part that matters most to you. Not speculation, not promises, but opportunity through awareness. If you have Washington quarters from the 1990s, here's what responsible collectors do. They start by slowing down. Take a closer look at your coins. Pause the video if you need to. Examine the date, the mint mark area, and the overall strike. Look for anything that seems unusual, doubling, misalignment, or texture that doesn't belong. Next, compare. Use reputable numismatic references, auction archives, and grading service images. Serious collectors don't guess, they verify. If a coin truly appears unusual, the next step is professional grading. Third-party grading services exist for a reason. They authenticate, attribute, and protect both buyers and sellers. A certified coin speaks with authority in the marketplace. And here's the deeper lesson, the one experienced collectors understand. Coins are not lottery tickets. They are financial artifacts. They reward patience, education, and discernment. Even if your 1994 quarter turns out to be worth only face value, the habit of checking, learning, and understanding money is never wasted. Because financial freedom doesn't begin with a jackpot, it begins with attention. Somewhere in America, right now, someone is holding a coin they've never truly looked at. Most will spend it, a few will ignore it, and a rare few will recognize that knowledge changes everything. Whether you collect, research, or simply want to be more aware of the value passing through your hands, this is your reminder. Look closer. Ask better questions. Respect the details. If you found this story valuable, take a moment to like the video, subscribe for more responsible coin knowledge, and share it with someone who still believes change is just change. What if the loose change sitting in your drawer right now is not just spare change at all? What if a single quarter, a coin most people spend without a second thought, could quietly be worth more than a luxury home, a retirement account, or even a lifetime of wages? Pause for a moment and take a closer look. Because today we're talking about a very specific coin that has captured the attention of serious collectors, professional graders, and high-end auction houses. The 1966 Washington quarter dollar with no mint mark. And yes, in extremely rare and extraordinary cases, examples connected to this date have been discussed in values reaching as high as $975,000. Before you dismiss that number, stay with me, because this story is not about hype. It's about history, rarity, and awareness. And most importantly, it's about the possibility that you already own something far more valuable than you realized. In the mid-1960s, America was changing, and so was its money. In 1966, the United States Mint made a historic decision. Precious silver was removed from circulating quarters, ending an era that had lasted more than 170 years. That year's Washington quarter was struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of silver, and to discourage hoarding, the Mint did something unusual. They removed mint marks entirely. No identifying letter at all. Every 1966 Washington quarter was struck without a mint mark, a detail that seems ordinary on the surface, but becomes critically important when combined with certain rare production anomalies. And this is where the story takes a turn. Most 1966 quarters are worth exactly what you'd expect, 25 cents to a few dollars in pristine condition. But a microscopic fraction of them are something else entirely: coins struck on the wrong metal planchets, coins showing dramatic off-center strikes, coins with double dies so sharp they can be seen without magnification, coins accidentally struck on experimental, transitional, or even foreign planchets. These are not theories. These are documented mint errors, the kind that occur during moments of massive change, rushed production, and industrial transition. And 1966 was exactly that kind of year. During this period, the U.S. Mint was under enormous pressure to produce coins quickly while adapting to new materials. Quality control was stretched thin. Mistakes happened, and when they did, a few extraordinary coins slipped into circulation. Most were spent. Some were lost. A handful survived. And when one of those survivors appears, authenticated, graded, and verified, the numismatic world pays attention. Take a breath here, because this part matters. The values that approach the upper six figures are not ordinary coins. They are not common pocket change. They are extreme anomalies, the kind that might appear once in a generation, if at all. A 1966 Washington quarter struck on a solid gold or silver planchet not intended for circulation, a dramatic mule error involving mismatched dies. Or a quarter with a previously undocumented double die paired with exceptional preservation. When coins like these surface, they don't sell at flea markets. They appear in elite auctions. They are examined by multiple experts. They are competed over by collectors who understand that rarity, once lost, cannot be replaced. But here's the most important thing to understand. Nobody knows how many of these coins are still out there, because many were never recognized, which means the real opportunity isn't in buying hype. It's in checking what you already own. If you have a 1966 Washington quarter, the first step is simple. Hold it under good light. Slow down. Look closely. Check the edge. It should show a copper core sandwiched between nickel layers. If it doesn't, that's a signal to investigate further. Examine Washington's profile. Look for doubling in the letters of liberty, or "In God We Trust." Even subtle doubling can matter. Turn the coin over. Study the eagle's feathers. Errors often reveal themselves there first. If something looks unusual, heavier weight, odd color, misaligned strike, do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not try to fix it. Those actions can permanently destroy value. Instead, document it. Photograph it. Weigh it accurately. Then, and only then, consider professional grading. Organizations like PCGS and NGC exist for one reason: to separate ordinary coins from historic artifacts. Grading does not create value. It reveals it. And in rare cases, it confirms that what you're holding is something the market has never seen before. Now, let's talk honestly about expectations. Most people will never find a six-figure coin. That's reality. But some do. And they don't find them because they're lucky. They find Them because they're paying attention. Financial freedom is rarely about sudden miracles, it's about awareness, patience, and informed action. Coins are not just metal. They are frozen moments in American history, and occasionally, they are mistakes worth more than perfection. The 1966 no-mint mark Washington quarter reminds us of something powerful. Extraordinary value often hides in ordinary places, a desk drawer. A coffee can. A box passed down through generations, so tonight, after this video ends, I encourage you, pause the screen. Go to where you keep your coins. Take a closer look. Not with excitement, with intention. Because knowledge doesn't guarantee wealth, but ignorance guarantees missed opportunity. If you found value in this story, take a moment to like this video. Subscribe for more real, responsible insights into rare coins and hidden history. And share this with someone who still believes change is just change. What if the most important investment opportunity of your life isn't in the stock market, isn't in real estate, but is quietly sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten pocket of your home? Today, we're talking about a coin many Americans have handled thousands of times without a second thought, the 1997 Washington quarter, and more specifically, the stories circulating around a 1997 Washington quarter with no visible mint mark, a detail that has sparked curiosity, confusion, and intense interest among collectors. Because every so often, an ordinary coin becomes extraordinary, not because of hype, but because of rarity, condition, and verifiable minting anomalies. Before you dismiss this as just another quarter, let me ask you something honestly. What if you already own a coin that deserves a second look? What if the difference between loose change and real financial opportunity is knowledge? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, we're going to separate facts from fiction, explain what actually makes a 1997 quarter valuable, and show you how smart collectors think. Calmly, patiently, and profitably. Let's begin with the truth. The Washington quarter has been a part of American life since 1932. It's a coin associated with stability, trust, and everyday commerce. By 1997, quarters were being produced in massive numbers at U.S. mint facilities, especially in Philadelphia and Denver. A standard 1997 D quarter, struck in Denver, normally carries a small D mint mark on the obverse, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. A standard 1997 P quarter, struck in Philadelphia, carries no mint mark at all. That distinction matters. Pause, because when people hear no mint mark, assumptions get made, and in numismatics, the study and collection of coins, assumptions are dangerous. There is no officially recognized 1997 D quarter that was intentionally struck without a mint mark, however. And this is where serious collectors pay attention. There are rare circumstances where mint marks are missing, distorted, or altered due to genuine mint errors. And that's where value can enter the conversation. Let's slow this down and talk clearly. A normal 1997 quarter in circulated condition is worth face value. Even in uncirculated condition, most are worth only a few dollars. So how do some examples become valuable? Not through age, not through wishful thinking, but through verifiable mint errors, exceptional condition, or unusual production mistakes that can be authenticated by professionals. Pause for visual. Macro shot of coin surface. Some of the legitimate error types collectors look for include coins struck on the wrong metal planchet, off-center strikes, broad strikes, double die obverse or reverse errors, clipped planchet, severely misaligned dies, or missing design elements caused by grease-filled dies. Not post-mint damage. These are not common, and they are not easy to identify correctly without experience. That's why real collectors don't rush. They inspect, they compare, they verify. You may have seen online claims suggesting values in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for a 1997 quarter. Let me be clear, calmly and responsibly. Extraordinary prices in U.S. coin collecting are typically associated with historic gold coins, early silver issues, unique pattern coins, or once-in-a-generation mint errors with full documentation. For modern circulating quarters, even dramatic errors usually sell in the thousands, not hundreds of thousands, and only when authenticated, graded, and demanded by the market. That doesn't mean there's no opportunity. It means opportunity belongs to those who understand reality, not hype. And that mindset alone already puts you ahead of most people. So how do serious collectors approach a coin like the 1997 Washington quarter? First, they observe. Take a closer look at the mint mark area. Use a magnifying glass. Look for signs of an actual missing mint mark versus wear or damage. Pause the video if you need to. Second, they assess condition. Coins are graded on a scale from poor to mint state. A flawless coin with sharp details, original luster, and no signs of circulation is dramatically more desirable than one that's been in pockets for decades. Third, they research. Not opinions. Not social media comments. Auction records, certified population reports, established numismatic references. The coin doesn't decide its value. The market does. That's why professional grading matters. Organizations like PCGS and NGC exist to protect buyers and sellers alike. They authenticate coins, confirm errors, assign grades, and encapsulate them in tamper-evident holders. This process costs money, and that's intentional, because only coins with legitimate potential should move forward. If you believe you've found something unusual, truly unusual, the smartest move is not to sell immediately, it's to slow down. Document the coin, weigh it, compare it to verified examples, and when appropriate, consult a professional. This is how people avoid costly mistakes and how some uncover real opportunities. Now let's zoom out for a moment. Coin collecting isn't just about finding a rare piece. It's about financial awareness. It's about understanding that value often hides in overlooked places, and that wealth is built through patience, education, and disciplined decisions. Many Americans dream of financial freedom. Very few take the time to learn how alternative assets work. That history, scarcity, and condition matter. That hype fades, but documentation lasts. And that smart money moves quietly. Even if your 1997 quarter turns out to be worth exactly 25 cents, the habit you build by checking, learning, and thinking critically is worth far more. Because that habit carries over into every financial decision you'll ever make. So here's what I encourage you to do today. Take 5 minutes. Open that drawer. Look through your change. Not with greed, but with curiosity. Not with expectations, but with awareness. If something stands out, research it. If you're unsure, get a second opinion. If it's ordinary, let it go. This is how smart collectors stay grounded and successful. And remember, the goal isn't to strike it rich overnight. The goal is to become the kind of person who recognizes value when others overlook it. If this video helped you see everyday coins differently, if it encouraged you to slow down and look closer, then you're already on the right path. Subscribe for calm, trustworthy insights into American coins and real-world collecting. Share this video with someone who keeps old change but never checks it. And most importantly, imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, a single quarter, just 25 cents, quietly changed a person's life. It wasn't gold. It wasn't ancient. It didn't look special at first glance. It was a 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark. A coin most people have held. A coin millions have spent without a second thought. A coin that, under extraordinary circumstances, has reached values whispered in the high six figures, and in rare, documented extremes has been discussed near $1 million. Now pause the video for a second. Ask yourself this question honestly. What if you already own one? What if the difference between ordinary change and extraordinary wealth is sitting in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten box in your home? Stay with me, because today's story is not about hype. It's about knowledge. It's about awareness. And it's about understanding how a simple quarter became one of the most talked about coins in modern American numismatics. Brief pause. This is the story of the 1965 no mint mark Washington quarter, and the opportunity hidden in plain sight. To understand why this coin matters, we have to go back to one of the most important turning points in U.S. monetary history. The year 1965, this was the moment America changed its coinage forever. Before 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver. They had intrinsic value, real metal wealth in every pocket. But silver prices were rising. Coins were disappearing from circulation. And the U.S. Mint faced a crisis. So in 1965, everything changed. For the first time, Washington quarters were struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of silver. And to discourage hoarding and speculation, the Mint made another critical decision. They removed mint marks entirely. That means no D, no S, no identifying letter at all. Every 1965 quarter, no matter where it was made, appears to have no mint mark. And that's where confusion begins and opportunity quietly enters the picture. Because while most 1965 quarters are common and worth face value, a tiny number were not made correctly. Some were struck on the wrong metal planchets. Some were produced under experimental conditions, and some escaped the mint in ways that were never meant to happen. These are not myths. These are documented. Numismatic events point. One of the most famous examples is the 1965 quarter struck on a silver planchet. Take a closer look here. A genuine 1965 silver quarter weighs more than the standard clad version. It sounds different when gently tapped. It looks different under magnification. Only a handful are confirmed to exist. And when they surface, certified, authenticated, and graded by professionals, they don't sell for pocket change. They sell for life-changing money. Another category involves special mint, set strikes, often called SMS coins. These were experimental coins produced with sharper details, satin-like surfaces, and extraordinary quality, never intended for circulation. A true 1965 SMS Washington quarter in high grade can command tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes more, depending on condition and provenance. And then there are the extreme anomalies. Coins struck on the wrong metal. Coins with dramatic off-metal errors. Coins that defy standard production records. These are the pieces that appear in major auctions, the kind attended by elite collectors, museums, and investors who understand rarity on a different level. No guarantees. No promises. Just historical facts and documented results. And here's the critical point most people miss. Every one of these coins started as ordinary change. They were not sold as treasures. They were not labeled as valuable. They were discovered by people who knew what to look for, or by people who were lucky enough to ask the right questions at the right time. That's why this story matters. So what does this mean for you? It means awareness is power. If you have a 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark, here's what responsible collectors and professionals do. Calmly, methodically, and without assumptions. First, they observe. Not with excitement, with curiosity. They check the weight using a precise digital scale. A silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams. The clad quarter weighs closer to 5.67 grams. They look closely at the edge. Copper. Showing through is normal. A solid silver edge deserves attention. They listen carefully to the sound, not as proof, but as a clue. Then, and this is important, they do not clean the coin. Cleaning destroys value. Always. Instead, they document what they see, take clear photographs, and seek professional evaluation. This means reputable coin dealers, established grading services, organizations with decades of trust behind their names. Because real value is never declared casually, it's confirmed, carefully. And here's where the deeper opportunity lives. Even if your coin is not a six-figure rarity, this process builds something more important: financial awareness. Coin collecting at this level is not about luck. It's about education, patience, and respect for history. It teaches you how wealth can hide in overlooked places, how knowledge creates leverage, how small details can carry enormous value. And sometimes, just sometimes, it rewards the person who took the time to look closer. The 1965 Washington quarter reminds us of something powerful. America's greatest financial stories don't always begin on Wall Street. Sometimes, they begin in a pocket. So here's your invitation. Take a closer look at your change. Pause this video if you need to. Check that old jar. Open that drawer you haven't touched in years. Not with greed, with curiosity. If you found this story valuable, take a moment to like the video, subscribe for more trusted coin stories, and share this with someone who might still think a quarter is just a quarter. Because sometimes the smallest decisions, like looking twice, can lead to the greatest discoveries. Wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, it waits to be recognized. What if the most important coin you'll ever own has already passed through your hands, and you never realized it? In today's video, we're going to take a calm, careful, and responsible look at the 1986 Washington quarter, particularly Philadelphia struck examples, what makes them common, what makes a few of them exceptional, and why knowledge, not luck, is the real path to opportunity in coin collecting. This is not about hype. This is not about promises. This is about awareness. Because financial freedom doesn't start with fantasy. It starts with paying attention. The year is 1986. America is moving fast. The economy is changing, technology is accelerating, and the U.S. Mint is striking hundreds of millions of coins to keep commerce flowing. The Washington quarter, first issued in 1932, is already a familiar symbol of American stability and continuity. By 1986, it's a workhorse coin, practical, efficient, and mass-produced. Quarters struck in Philadelphia in 1986 carry a small P mint mark on the obverse, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. That detail matters because it helps separate ordinary circulation coins from those struck at other facilities. Most 1986 P quarters are worth exactly what you'd expect, face value. And that's where many stories stop. But serious collectors know that value in coins does not come from age alone. It comes from condition. It comes from precision. And sometimes, it comes from mistakes. During high-volume production years like 1986, the mint pushed its equipment hard. Dies wore down. Planchets slipped through imperfectly. Pressure wasn't always uniform. And in rare cases, those small mechanical problems created coins that were never supposed to exist. Off-center strikes, where the design is visibly shifted. Broad strikes without a proper rim. Double die characteristics, where design elements show clear separation. Clipped planchets, missing a curved portion of metal. Or extraordinary mint state examples with flawless surfaces and booming luster. Now, let's be clear. These are not common. Most people will never find one. But every verified rarity ever discovered started the same way. As an ordinary coin. Until someone looked closer. In the professional numismatic world, condition is measured on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70. For modern coins like a 1986 quarter, only those grading at the very top, MS68, MS69, and in extremely rare cases MS70, even enter high-value conversations. Coins like that are not found in pocket change anymore. They come from original rolls, mint sets, or long-preserved collections. And when they do appear, they don't sell because of hype. They sell because multiple experts agree on what they are. From time to time, unusual modern errors or exceptionally preserved coins tied to common dates have drawn eye-opening prices at auction. Not because every example is valuable, but because a tiny fraction are genuinely different. This is where online rumors often exaggerate numbers. There is no guarantee. There is no standard 1986 quarter worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But there are documented cases where extreme rarity, condition, and collector demand intersect, and when they do, the market pays attention. Responsible collecting means understanding that distinction. Act 3. The opportunity. So what does this mean for you? It means opportunity doesn't begin with selling dreams. It begins with learning how to look. If you have Washington quarters from the mid-1980s, take a moment, slow down. Take a closer look, check the date, check the mint mark, examine the rims, look for doubling in the lettering. Study the surfaces under good light. If something looks unusual, don't rush. Don't clean the coin. Don't assume value. Instead, document it. Compare it to verified examples. And if it still stands out, consider professional evaluation. Third-party grading services exist for one reason: to remove emotion from the process. They authenticate, grade, and encapsulate coins so buyers and sellers can speak the same language. That step alone often separates curiosity from credibility, and even if your coin turns out to be ordinary, the habit you build is not. Because smart collecting is not gambling. It's education. It's patience. It's long-term thinking. Coins are small objects, but they reward disciplined minds. Financial awareness doesn't always arrive as a sudden windfall. Sometimes it arrives as a moment of attention. The decision to learn. The decision to research. The decision to treat everyday objects with respect. That mindset carries beyond coins. It carries into how we save, how we invest, and how we plan for the future. So here's your call to action. Pause this video. Take out your change. Look again at what you already own. Not with excitement, but with clarity. If you found value in this calm, responsible approach to rare coins and financial awareness, subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who still thinks opportunity always looks obvious. Because sometimes the most powerful discoveries are hiding in plain sight. And the difference between an ordinary coin and a meaningful one is the person who takes the time to understand it. Imagine this for a moment. You're standing in line at a grocery store. You reach into your pocket, pull out a quarter, and without thinking, you hand it over. A simple coin. Ordinary. Forgettable. But what if that quarter wasn't ordinary at all? What if it was a 2021 Washington quarter that collectors quietly search for, a coin that, under extremely rare circumstances, has been linked to six-figure and even headline-making valuations? Tonight, I want you to slow down with me, because the coin we're talking about isn't ancient. It isn't gold, and it doesn't look special at first glance. Yet stories surrounding the 2021 Washington quarter especially coins with unusual mint characteristics, have made experienced collectors stop, look twice, and sometimes bid aggressively. And the most unsettling thought is this: you may have already held one. Most people believe valuable coins come from the distant past. They picture dusty attics, inherited collections, or pirate-era treasure. But modern numismatics tells a different story. Some of the most shocking auction results in recent years didn't come from 1800s gold coins. They came from modern U.S. coins with extraordinary errors, experimental strikes, or production anomalies that were never meant to leave the mint. The 2021 Washington Quarter is one of those coins that quietly entered circulation during a chaotic moment in history. A year defined by disrupted supply chains, staff shortages, and rushed production schedules. That environment is exactly where rare mistakes are born. Now let me be clear from the start. Not every 2021 quarter is valuable. Most are worth face value. But a very small number, the kind collectors whisper about, exist on the extreme edge of rarity. And those are the coins that create headlines. So before you dismiss this as just another quarter, take a breath and ask yourself, what if the most valuable coin you'll ever own already passed through your hands? The Washington Quarter you know today traces its roots back to 1932, created to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, BY 2021. The design had evolved once again, featuring the powerful Washington crossing the Delaware. Reverse, a bold, modern tribute to leadership and resolve. These quarters were struck primarily at two facilities: Philadelphia, which traditionally leaves no mint mark, and Denver, which marks its coins with a small d. But here's where things get interesting. Collectors began noticing that some 2021 quarters didn't behave the way they should. Coins with missing or distorted mint marks. Coins struck on incorrect planchets. Coins with dramatic die cracks, doubling, or off-metal compositions. And in extremely rare cases, coins that appear to blur the line between official issue and mint error anomaly. When a coin displays a mismatch between its expected mint characteristics and its physical reality, collectors pay attention. Because mistakes like that are not reproducible. They can't be manufactured later. They can't be recreated once the dies are retired. They are one-time events. Now, about the claim that has sparked so much curiosity, the idea of a 2021 Washington Quarter with no mint mark. Under normal circumstances, that shouldn't exist. Which is exactly why collectors would consider such a coin extraordinary if verified. Coins that challenge established minting rules immediately raise red flags. And green ones in the numismatic world. But verification is everything. In rare historical cases, coins with missing mint marks, double dies, or transitional errors have sold for staggering amounts. Not because of hype, but because of documented scarcity and demand among elite collectors. High-profile auction houses don't sell stories. They sell certified facts. And when a coin is authenticated, graded, and proven to be unique or nearly unique, that's when serious money enters the room. Not speculation. Not guarantees. Just demand meeting rarity. So what should you do if this has your attention? First, slow down. Go to your change jar, your glove compartment, that old coffee can in the kitchen drawer. Take out your 2021 Washington quarters and look at them carefully. Use good lighting. A magnifying glass if you have one. Check the mint mark area. Look for doubling in the lettering. Examine the edges, weight, and color. If something feels off. Not exciting, not hopeful, but genuinely unusual. That's when caution becomes wisdom. Do not clean the coin. Do not alter it. And do not assume value without evidence. Professional grading services exist for a reason. They authenticate. They measure. They document. And they protect both buyers and sellers. Even if your coin turns out to be worth only face value, the habit you're developing is priceless: awareness. Because financial freedom doesn't come from chasing fantasies. It comes from learning how value is actually created. In numismatics, value lives at the intersection of rarity, demand, and trust is built through patience and education. The truth is simple and powerful. Most people never look at their money. Collectors do, and sometimes, collectors are rewarded, not with promises, but with possibilities. So here's my challenge to you. Tonight, don't scroll past this moment. Don't dismiss the change in your pocket. Take a closer look. Pause the video if you need to. Not because every coin is valuable, but because the habit of paying attention is. Subscribe if you value calm, responsible insight into coins, history, and hidden opportunity. And remember, wealth isn't always found by searching farther. Sometimes it's found by finally looking closer. What if the key to a smarter financial future was already sitting in a drawer? What if a coin you've handled without a second thought deserved a second look? Right now, somewhere in America, a Washington quarter minted in 1990 is being spent for 25 cents. It passes through gas stations, grocery stores, and vending machines every day. And yet, collectors continue to search rolls of these coins with patience, discipline, and hope, because history has taught them something important. Sometimes, it's not the oldest coin that matters. Sometimes, it's the misunderstood one. Today, we're taking a calm, honest, and responsible look at the 1990 Washington quarter dollar, often described online as a no-mint mark coin, and separating myth from reality, hype from facts, and fantasy from genuine opportunity. And as you listen, ask yourself a simple question. What if I already own one worth more than face value? The Washington quarter has been part of American life since 1932. It was created to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, a symbol of leadership, restraint, and long-term vision, qualities that successful collectors quietly share. By 1990, the quarter was already a workhorse of the U.S. economy. Millions were struck every year to meet everyday demand. The Philadelphia Mint produced quarters marked with a small p above the date, a practice that began in 1980. So let's be clear and responsible right from the start. A standard 1990 Philadelphia quarter does have a mint mark. There is no officially released no mint mark 1990 Washington quarter. That distinction matters because real value in modern coins doesn't come from rumors. It comes from documented errors, rare conditions, and verifiable anomalies, the kind that survive minting by accident, not by intention. So why are collectors still paying attention to this coin? Because in rare cases, something went wrong. Coin errors are the quiet stories of the U.S. Mint. They happen when human engineering meets massive industrial speed. A slight misalignment, a planchet that shouldn't have been there, a die that wore down just a little too long. For the 1990 Washington quarter, collectors look for several specific possibilities. Off-center strikes, where the design appears shifted and incomplete. Double die errors, where parts of the lettering or Washington's profile show clear doubling. Clipped planchets, where a portion of the metal is missing before the coin is struck. Wrong planchet errors, where a quarter is struck on metal intended for a different denomination. These are not common. Most people will never encounter one, but they are real and they are documented. And when such coins are authenticated and professionally graded, they can sell for hundreds, sometimes thousands, depending on severity, eye appeal, and demand. This is where responsible storytelling matters. Despite what sensational headlines may suggest, there is no confirmed, publicly documented sale of a standard 1990 quarter reaching anywhere near six figures, let alone close to $1 million. Claims of extreme values often come from misunderstandings, misidentified coins, or unverified listings. But that does not mean there is no opportunity. It means the opportunity belongs to the patient, informed collector, not the gambler. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers regularly sell modern era coins, not because they promise riches, but because serious collectors value rarity, condition, and provenance. A dramatic error, graded by a trusted service like PCGS or NGC, can attract competitive bidding. And in a world where alternative assets are increasingly studied, coins remain one of the few tangible investments you can physically hold, study, and enjoy. That's the quiet appeal of numismatics. It's not about chasing fantasies. It's about recognizing potential and managing expectations. Now, let's bring this story closer to you. If you have quarters at home, here's what matters. First, slow down. Take a closer look. Don't rush. Check the date. 1990. Look above the date for the P mint mark. Its presence is normal. Its absence would be extraordinary and worth professional review, not immediate celebration. Examine the coin's edge and shape. Rotate it under light. Look for doubling, missing elements, or unusual metal color if something truly looks wrong. Not worn, not damaged, but wrong. That's when research begins. Do not clean the coin. Ever. Cleaning destroys value faster than time. Instead, compare it with verified examples from trusted numismatic sources. And if doubt remains, consider professional grading. Grading is not a guarantee of profit. It is a tool for clarity. There's a deeper lesson here, and it goes beyond quarters. Financial awareness is rarely loud. Wealth is often built quietly, through curiosity, discipline, and education. Coin collecting teaches patience. It rewards learning, and it reminds us that value is not always obvious at first glance. The 1990 Washington quarter is not a lottery ticket, but it is a reminder that even ordinary objects can carry stories worth understanding, and sometimes, the real reward isn't what a coin sells for. It's what it teaches you about paying attention. So tonight, open that drawer, check that jar, take a closer look, and if you want more calm, honest stories about American coins, hidden history, and smart collecting, subscribe to this channel and stay curious. Because opportunity doesn't shout. It waits for those who listen. What if the most valuable coin you will ever own is already sitting in your house, quietly blending in with spare change? Right now, somewhere in America, a Washington quarter dated 1990 is being overlooked, spent at face value, or forgotten in a drawer. To most people, it's just another quarter. But to a trained eye, under the right conditions, this exact coin can represent something far bigger: knowledge, opportunity, and financial awareness. Pause for a moment. Think about how many quarters you've handled in your lifetime. Thousands? Tens of thousands? Now imagine discovering that one of them, a coin you never thought twice about, could be worth more than a luxury home, not because of hype or luck, but because of rarity, condition, and timing. Today, we're taking a calm, responsible, and professional look at the 1990 Washington quarter with no mint mark, what it really is, what it is not, and why collectors continue to study it closely. This is not a promise of riches. This is an invitation to look closer. Because sometimes, wealth begins with awareness. The Washington quarter has been part of American life since 1932, created to honor George Washington's 200th birthday. By 1990, the design was familiar, trusted, and heavily circulated. Exactly why most people never looked twice at it. In 1990, quarters were struck at 3 U.S. mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia carry no mint marked. So when people say 1990 quarter, they are referring to a coin with no letter under Washington's neck. Millions were produced, and that fact alone tells us something important. Most 1990 quarters are not rare. Most are worth 25 cents to a few dollars in circulated condition. And that honesty matters. But numismatics has never been about the average coin. It has always been about the exceptions. Collectors pay attention to 3 factors above all else: condition, errors, and verifiable rarity. And this is where things become interesting. Under magnification, some 1990 quarters show minting anomalies, mistakes that happened during the striking process. These are not damages from circulation. They are errors created at the mint itself. Off-center strikes, double die features, wrong planchet strikes, and extreme die misalignments. Most errors are minor and modestly valuable. A few are dramatic, and a very small number are historically significant. When a major error is paired with exceptional preservation, meaning a coin that survived untouched, uncleaned, and professionally graded, collector demand can rise sharply. At major auctions, verified mint errors have sold for thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, depending on the severity, appeal, and documentation. Now let's be absolutely clear and responsible here. Stories of 6-figure or higher valuations are extraordinary cases, typically involving one-of-a-kind errors, unique test strikes, or coins tied to documented mint anomalies. These are not typical pocket change discoveries, but they do exist, and every one of them started as an ordinary coin, until someone looked closer. Collectors don't chase coins. They study them. And that mindset is what separates fantasy from opportunity. Value does not come from age alone. It comes from verification. If you have a 1990 quarter, start with observation. Use a magnifying glass. Look at the date, the edges, the lettering, and Washington's profile. If the answer is no, that's perfectly fine. Education is still value. But if something seems unusual, do not clean the coin. Cleaning permanently destroys collector value. Instead, research similar verified examples. Compare photos from reputable auction houses. Learn the language of grading. Professional grading services exist for one reason. Trust. A coin is not valuable because someone claims it is. It becomes valuable when experts authenticate, grade, and document it. This process protects both collectors and sellers. It removes emotion and replaces it with facts, and facts are the foundation of real financial awareness. Numismatics is not a lottery. It is a long-term discipline. Collectors who succeed do so because they learn, observe, and act responsibly. Even if your coin turns out to be worth face value, you gain something far more important: the ability to see opportunity where others see routine. That mindset extends beyond coins. Wealth is rarely loud. It doesn't announce itself. It waits for those who pay attention. So here's your invitation. Take a closer look. Pause the video. Open that drawer. Examine that jar of change. Not with greed, with curiosity. Because the true value of the 1990 Washington quarter isn't just what it might sell for, it's what it teaches us. That knowledge compounds, patience pays, and opportunity often hides in plain sight. If you value clear thinking, responsible collecting, and financial awareness, stay with this channel. Subscribe for grounded numismatic insight. Share this video with someone who still thinks coins are just change. And remember, the smartest investments always begin with understanding.